Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, and we will call the meeting of the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners to order. Our prayer tonight will be led by Commissioner Turner, and then Commissioner Black will be leading us in the pledge to the flag.
Let's pray. Our most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you again for the privilege that each one of us has to represent our constituents, Lord, in our positions. And I ask that tonight with the decisions that we make, Lord, that we have an honest discussion, Lord, and that each one of us, Lord, keeps ourselves accountable for our attitude and the words that are spoken in the way that we conduct our business as we best represent our constituents, Lord. I ask that you be with each one of the men and women that are here tonight, Lord, including those in the audience. Guide them, Lord, protect them. Ask that you continue to protect our troops, Lord, as new things are happening around the world every day, Lord. Just put your shield of protection around them. Protect them, Lord, and give their families here the sense of peace and love that only you can provide. I ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Black?
Here.
Commissioner Jordan?
Here.
Commissioner P?
Here.
Commissioner Cook?
Here.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Here.
Commissioner Farley?
Here.
Commissioner Phillips?
Here.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Here.
Commissioner Turner?
Here.
Commissioner Allen?
Here.
Commissioner Stevens?
Here.
Commissioner Jordan?
Here.
Commissioner Baum?
Here.
Commissioner Coggin?
Present.
Commissioner Young?
Present.
Commissioner Phillips? Commissioner McAdoo?
Here.
Commissioner Ealy?
Here.
Commissioner Gooch?
Here.
Commissioner Sereno? 21 present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. You have before you a copy of the minutes of the last meeting. Do we have a motion? Commissioner Sandlin?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve.
Right, and a second, Commissioner Turner. Did anyone have any corrections or additions? There being none, all in favor of that, then please say aye. Aye. That was unanimous then. First, we have a very important resolution of sympathy on behalf of a distinguished gentleman, Mr. Charlie Mack Jones, to be presented by Commissioner Farley.
I'd like to ask that the family would like to come up and stand with me, and Commissioner Phillips as well. First of all, before I get started, Charlie Mack Jones was a dear friend of mine. Tell you a little bit of how it got started. Back in 1977, I met Charlie Mack for the very first time. His son Terry and I were working together down at the time for Commissioner Phillips at Firestone in Laverne. I decided while I was there I was going to get married. And talking to Terry, and he was my best man at my first wedding. And Charlie Mack married me and my first wife. And we're since not married anymore, but I still think a lot of Charlie Mack. In 1994, I decided that I wanted to be a county commissioner. And I was going to be running against the gentleman that lived out there around where Charlie Mack was from, out in Midland, when I ran against Donnie Pinkston. And back years ago, some of you commissioners and rural commissioners know this just as well as I do. When you go run for public office out in a rural area, you go try to talk to the people that are influential, that knows the area, and kind of the mayors of the communities. And Charlie Mack was one of those people. I remember going to Charlie Mack and asking him, I need your help. He didn't hesitate. He said, you got it. You got it. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. With that, I got a resolution here that I want to read tonight. Whereas it was great sadness that the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners learned of the death of Charlie Mack Jones, a former Rutherford County Commissioner and a friend of many. And whereas Mr. Jones is survived by his wife, Betty Hurst Jones, sons Jerry and Joyce Jones, Terry and Peggy Jones, Kyle and Gayla Jones, daughter Gail and Paul Norwood, stepchildren Michael and Angela Parker, Sheila and Tom Moore, grandchildren Lee and Samantha Jones, Mac and Erica Jones, Paul and Becky Jones, Melissa Story, Christy and W.T. Rowell, Misty and Tim Pamphlet, Tiffany and Edward Phillips, Dylan Parker, Matthew and Roxy Norwood, and Micah and Stephanie Norwood, and 14 great-grandchildren. And whereas Mr. Jones was a former member of Crescent Church of Christ and was presently a member of New Zion Church of Christ and was an active community supporter and was instrumental in developing a baseball field in the Crescent community and at the Middle Tennessee Christian School, as well as all road improvements in Rutherford County. And whereas he was a former board member of Middle Tennessee Christian School and the Rutherford County Co-op, and whereas we know that his passing has caused great sadness to his family and friends, now therefore be it resolved that the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners at its regular session on the 13th day of September 2012 does hereby extend sincere sympathy to the family of Mr. Charlie Mack Jones, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution of sympathy be forwarded to the family of Mr. Jones by the clerk of this legislative body, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Phillips and several others. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Farley, you have some other things you want to say?
Yes, sir. I sure do. As I said earlier, Charlie Mack was a commissioner up here, and I think he was a commissioner up here for 12 years. He was also commissioner of the district that I'm the commissioner of, and started out being a commissioner of back in 20 years ago almost. Well, Miss Betty here has something that she wanted to give to the politician in the Jones family. And Tiffany, if you would come over here, please. I want to read this with you. This is something that was given to Charlie Mack as a county commissioner back when he left, and by then Judge Benham McFarland. If you don't mind, I'd like to read it for you, okay? A record of service for the county of Rutherford, be it known by all citizens that the Rutherford County Court was established in 1803 for the purpose of governing the political entity designated by the General Assembly. Be it also known that the Honorable County Court met initially and at the village of Jefferson for the first seat of justice and was removed in 1811 to Murfreesboro. Be it further known that the Honorable Court served the citizenry with the designation for 174 years, interpreted only by the Civil War and continuing until its dissolution of constitutional edict in 1978. Now, it be hereby resolved that the honor be done to Charlie Mack Jones for 12 years of devotion, and that reference to the service of the recorded for posterity and has an integral part of our own rich heritage. Awarded this 9th day of October 1978, Judge of Rutherford County, Benham McFarland.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is public comments, and tonight we have one speaker, Mr. Donald Todd.
My name is Donald Todd, and I live at 633 Buck Lane. Is our finance department lax in instructing Rutherford County's commission? On August 16, 2012, just a few minutes before I spoke to you county commissioners on the subject of where the huge balance of unspent surplus revenue is being placed and how it is being used, one of you commissioners admitted to me that he did not know the answer to the two questions. But in my speech a few minutes later, I revealed exactly where most of this money has been placed and what it is used for. Tonight, I have given you an attachment dated July 12, 2012, which tells you what has happened to a $104 million surplus revenue balance. Most of this balance is not being used for the purpose for which the appropriations were originally made. Because the commissioner with whom I talked had no idea what was being done with the surplus revenue, can we assume that none of you do? In which case, we can ask why you have not been instructed in the policies used regarding this money. In 2003, it was discovered that $4.23 billion in surpluses was not used for the purposes for which it was appropriated at the state level. Refer to cafrman.com. Commissioners, apparently there has been a lack of knowledge on your part regarding what has happened to taxpayer surpluses in Rutherford County. Does this mean that the finance director has been allowed to deposit and invest these surpluses without your knowledge and approval? Dealing with taxpayer money is an intrinsic part of your job. Why do you not know about this? Why have you allowed a transfer of control of this money from the county to the banks, preventing the recycling of large surpluses to the next year's budget and making it necessary to implement tax increases? This maneuver provides a huge benefit to the banks and their loan businesses, while at the same time bankrupting the taxpayers. It is disappointing to know that huge sums of hard-earned money are being dealt with in such a cavalier fashion. The finance department should make the definite effort to instruct county commissioners in the processes involved with this money, and commissioners should be diligent in doing their homework in learning what those processes are. The present policy is part of a dangerous trend in every state and originates from several sources, including cooperation between the United Nations and the Federal Reserve and the adoption of socialistic metro-type laws. The Bible prophesies a new world order or world government. With these policies, we are well on our way to it, and Christians recognize that the return of our Lord is imminent. Thank you.
Commissioner Farley.
Mayor, Dr. Todd, you may want to hear this. Dr. Todd's got up here tonight in this statement and made a statement that I think is very untrue. And one of the nights that he missed up here, he missed the night that we acknowledged our finance office for getting an award. And then I want the county finance director to be able to address this, what he said up here tonight. I don't know of any commissioner up here that she has not told. I know I've heard her tell it in commission meetings where this money is going. And I'd like for her to be able to address it, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor.
Nolan, do you want to respond?
I can respond. He refers back to his comments from last meeting, and that, I believe, had to do with where is the cash. Kind of get it back on a home level. Most everybody in here has a bank account. The monies that you have, hopefully there is money in your bank account. That is there, that your money's coming into your household was more than what you've spent out. So the cash there, what do you do with it? You don't stick it under your mattress. It's in a bank. You invest it, just like the county. The county invests that money that's not being used at the moment to fund payroll or fund the expenses, the appropriations that that you've set forth through the budget. So when he says that the monies, where are the monies where's the unspent money? That's cash. And cash is sitting in the bank, and this body has adopted policies over how that money can be invested. My office does not invest money. That is the function of the trustee. The monies come in, and all the cash, y'all already know this. I'm telling this mostly to the people who are watching on TV, that the money comes into the trustee's office, and he is our banker, and he invests the money. He ensures that the money is available, pulled out of CDs, that the cash is liquid, so that when my office spends the money, that it is spent according to the budget that this body has adopted, which is a function of my office to ensure that the expenses don't exceed the budget that is adopted by you. The trustee ensures that the money is there to be able to pay those warrants that we issue. I'm bound by this commission, by what you spend. How we spend it. We talk about the excess surplus. We talk about that during the budgetary process. We estimate what that balance is going to be at the end. It is a part of our discussion when we adopt a budget. How much of it do we think we can use into the next year? And then at the end, when we close our books, we do report what did those balances end up doing. So.
I think that was a good response, and I will remind you, every year we have a very, very exhaustive audit by the State Comptroller's Office. I don't know how many consecutive years it's been, Ms. Nolan can tell me, that we have received the award for outstanding performance, the top award that can be given by the Comptroller for accuracy and integrity in our whole system. So we should be proud of that. I am really, really proud of our finance department. They've done a tremendously extraordinary job. Commissioner Sandlin.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I want to commend Mr. Todd, though, as a citizen, as a taxpayer of Rutherford County, and being so frugal and jumping in and really looking at our situations, whether they're good or bad or indifferent, that he cares. And I do appreciate that, but I wanted to iterate here by standing up and saying the Finance Department's office is open. And anybody, whether it be Mr. Todd or anybody in Rutherford County wants to come and talk to you, all they got to do is give you a jingle and discuss any part of this that they want to discuss. Because it's our money, it's their money, it's Rutherford County's money. And we're trying to do with it the best way that we know how. So the door is open is what I wanted to say, and they're welcome to ask you any questions anytime. And I appreciate your comments about it too.
Our budget and the audit is both, anybody can get multiple years that is on the county's website under Budget and Finance Department.
Okay, thank you very much then. We're ready for elections and confirmations, and Commissioner Gooch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners. Before I get to this, I do have a comment. One of the first actions that I took as a commissioner was to write the comment policy and present it to the steering committee and the county commission, and it was approved. However, when month after month people get up and blaspheme the name of our county employees and elected officials, sometimes it makes me regret it. Having said that, we have several items for your consideration this evening. On your desk, you will find a list of notaries to be elected. I move for their approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Commissioner Jeff Phillips and others, and Commissioner Jordan. All in favor of that, please say aye then. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. That's unanimous.
Next, we need to fill a vacancy on the Codes Enforcement and Adjustment and Appeals Board. Steering nominates Mr. Darrell Alexander. I so move, Mr. Chair.
Coggan, a second, and Mr. Black. All those in favor of that, then please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you. Thirdly, we need to fill a vacancy on the Road Board and School Board Zone Committee. At the time steering met, we did not have any applicants. In the meantime, you should find in your packet on your desk the name of Mr. Jim Estes. I know Mr. Estes, and I think he's a pretty good guy, so I would nominate him for that office, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Jordan, any discussion? All in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's good. Thank you.
Fourthly, we need to fill a vacancy on the beer board. Steering nominates Mr. Michael Alexander. I so move, Mr. Chair.
And a second from Commissioner Jernigan. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Fifthly, we need to announce 2 vacancies on the beer board. We need to announce vacancies on the audit committee of the school board representative, the road board representative, and citizen. We need to announce 3 vacancies on the Board of Zoning Appeals, which will consist of 1 member and 2 alternates. And
Mr. Gooch, did we get an answer back on the beer board with an applicant that we had? We were going to announce that at the full commission point.
I thought that we were going to re-announce that at the...
That's going to go back to steering, I believe, and have that discussion.
Okay.
Yes.
I move that we reaffirm the members of the Ethics Committee, which consist of Commissioner Joyce Ealy, Commissioner Robert P., Commissioner Adam Coggins, Mr. Ted Beatty, and Francis Mosby.
Motion, I need a second on that, Commissioner Sandlin. Okay, any discussion? All in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. That was unanimous.
And I will take nominations from the floor for the Chairman Pro Tem.
Commissioner Young. Commissioner Jeff Phillips has been nominated. Are there other nominations? Whoop. One of you two, which go
Make
first.
a motion, nomination cease, Mr. Phillips be appointed by acclamation.
Second by Commissioner Farley and Ms. Cook. Any other discussion? Motion to elect Mr. Phillips by acclamation. Nomination cease. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Phillips. Thank you very much. Continue, Mr. Gooch.
Also, we will take nominations from the floor for the chaplain, the court chaplain.
Mrs. Allen.
I'd like to nominate Brad Turner.
Second from Mr. Jernigan and Mr. Jordan. Any other nominations? There being no other nominations, all in favor of this, then please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Also, I move for the confirmation of the election of Mayor Ernest Burgess as Commission Chairman.
Second.
Phillips, you can continue with the vote.
We have a nomination as of last month, and then to confirm that this month. And all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? That motion carries.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And finally, you should have had in your packet or an email the committee assignments for the commissions 2012, 2013. I move for those approvals.
I have a motion on those committee assignments. Commissioner Farley seconded that motion. Now, is there any discussion? You all have a copy of those committees. You're satisfied? All of you in favor, please say aye. 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 All right. Thank you very much. That is approved. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to, as we normally do, excuse each committee to go out for just a few moments and pick your chairperson and your vice chairperson and come back and report that and your normal meeting time that will be held each month. So we're going to be on the air. I think we'll have the volume turned down on these speakers, but we ask you to do this as quickly as you can. So the first committee is Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee, and you may be excused in the room 205 and make your selections. Yeah, we're still live, ladies and gentlemen. The Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee has met and reported that Commissioner Ealy is chairperson and Commissioner Will Jordan, vice chair. They will continue to meet the Thursday before the commission meeting at 5:30. Next, the Public Safety Committee, please be excused. Safety, and the chairperson is Commissioner Farley, the vice chair is Commissioner Schaefer, and they will meet on the fourth Monday of each month at 5:30. Next, we're ready for the Public Works and Planning Committee to be excused. The Public Works and Planning Committee has reported. The chairperson will be Commissioner Tiffany Phillips, and the vice chair is Commissioner Allen. They will continue to meet on the second Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Health and Education Committee would be next. We're going to let Josh referee. You got to see the towels. You should have known something. Ladies and gentlemen, the Health and Education Committee has reported. Chairperson is Commissioner Jeff Jordan, and the vice chair is Commissioner Will Jordan. Next, we will ask the Property Management Committee to convene. say that? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the Property Management Committee has reported, and Commissioner McAdoo is chairperson. The vice chair is Commissioner Farley. They will meet the fourth Thursday at 5:30 as needed. That's what the chairperson told me to report. Okay. All right, thank you very much. We have done that. We're ready to continue the agenda, ladies and gentlemen. There is no unfinished business, and now we're going to start the reports by the standing committees. There is no report from the Purchasing Committee tonight, and we're ready for Commissioner Ealy to take us through the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee agenda.
J2A, General Fund Budget Amendments. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the general fund be amended as follows. From the county clerk, from restricted for finance, $1,500 to data processing equipment, $1,500. This amendment is to fund the vendor charging to download software to new computers. The Health Department increased revenue from contributions and gifts, $1,165. Increased expenditure for travel, $1,165. And the contributions and gifts are from the Rutherford County and Stones River Medical Alliance. Fire and Rescue Department, from restricted for capital projects, $55,000, to other equipment, $55,000. And this is funding for two 2,500-gallon water tanks to install on donated trucks. County Mayor Fire and Rescue, from the County Mayor, other charges, $9,810, to data processing equipment of $5,110, other equipment, $4,700. This is to fund Wi-Fi for the fire station and for a rescue jack to aid in extrication services. The jail, from unassigned fund balance, $24,980, to maintenance and repair of buildings, $24,980, and this is to complete a project for 2 hot water converter storage tanks. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Sandlin and others. Commissioner Young.
Mayor Burgess, I'd like to amend the motion and delete the first item of the Fire and Rescue Department, the $55,000 from restricted capital projects to other equipment. I'd like to make a motion to delete this item off the motion.
Second from Commissioner Stevens, was that correct? All right.
Can I ask why we're deleting it and what's the purpose? I mean, deleting it forever or seeing it in just a few minutes or what?
Oh, so the motion is just to separate. Do you want to vote on it?
I want to amend this and delete this off of this motion and then and bring it up separately. Yes.
That's the maker of the motion and a second. That's your understanding. Okay. Commissioner P.
Well, that's not what I heard. The motion that I heard was to delete this, period. Read back the motion.
We haven't got it typed in, but. So, Commissioner Young, would you let's think together here just a moment. Is your motion to
I'll restate my motion for you.
Delay the voting on this particular $55,000 and take that as a separate agenda item immediately following the addressing of these other 4 items?
I would like to make that motion as stated, as the mayor just stated.
That's your motion, Mr. Stevens. All right, is that clear enough, Mr. P? I hope I don't.
Well, I didn't hear either one of them withdraw their first motion. Maybe the first did. I didn't hear the second withdrawal.
Okay.
Our procedure's a little bit off there.
All right, so Mr. Young, would you withdraw your first initial motion the way it was worded?
I'll withdraw my initial motion that was on the floor.
Second one in place as
replace the second as designated.
Stephen said that's okay as far as the maker of the second. All right. We have that motion to deal with these four items and remove the item for the Fire and Rescue Department to be considered immediately following this vote. All in favor of that, then please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll? Well, let's hold on, Madam Clerk. Let's don't do that. We got a much faster way. We're going to just use the electronic voting machine. All right, all of us now you'll have an opportunity to please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
11 yes, 10 no. Amendment passes.
Okay. Now we have the motion on the floor then for the four items with the exclusion of the Fire and Rescue Department request. And is there any discussion on those four items? If not, please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
20 yes, 1 no. Motion passes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will now present a budget amendment for the Fire and Rescue Department from restricted for capital projects, $55,000, to other equipment, $55,000. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Sandlin. Now Commissioner Young.
Now this is brought into discussion, Mr. Chairman. I've got some items I'd like to bring forth the County Commission. I voted no on this in public safety. I wasn't allowed to do my homework on it. So I hope you bear with me and be fair and honest and listen to what I got to say. I've been a firefighter for 13 years in the county as a volunteer. I've got an associate's degree in fire science, and I've really done my homework on this. And I really want y'all to listen to the fair and honest debate of this. And at the end of my discussion, I do plan on suspending the rules to allow Mr. Farley to give fair debate, because I think that's well deserved. So please be open and honest and listen to my discussion. At the Budget Committee, I wasn't able to attend and defend myself. I had a legal opinion from the County Attorney's Office on whether these trucks, retrofitting these tankers, and bear in mind this is a 1993 Mack garbage truck. It's a roll-off box truck that we use for solid waste that Mr. Nolan said the fire department could use. And Mr. Farley can correct me if I'm wrong when I'm wrong on these stats. To my knowledge, they have a 10-speed manual transmission. She's going to be double clutching. And close to 500,000 miles, thereabouts. They're very high mileage trucks. And these are 1993 trucks. There's, at the Budget Committee, there was a lot of talk about what is a code, what is a standard, what is a law. This is the National Fire Codes put out by NFPA. At Public Safety, we talked about adopting fire codes for this county. These aren't laws. We don't have to follow them. We're not expected to. But the letter we got from the county attorney said that is the standard of care, and if something bad happens, that's what we're going to get sued on. And the county attorney, we've got him. If I'm wrong, he can correct me afterwards. The standard for automotive fire apparatus is 1901. I asked, and first of all, I want to say I was wrong. And it takes a man to say you're wrong. I was wrong on a manual transmission versus an automatic transmission. It is not required. But I've also talked to apparatus manufacturers, and they say, Matt, we hadn't built a fire truck without an automatic in so long because of the way the Transmission shifts. Well, this is a tanker, so it's there's no transmission. It's got an auxiliary pump. So that is, you can get around it. But bear in mind, we're letting volunteers, and I'm a volunteer, drive a truck that requires a CDL license. They are exempt in the state because they're a volunteer. It's still a CDL-style truck with a 10-speed manual transmission, which is inherently dangerous. There's other questions in 1901 that weren't answered because I wasn't at that committee meeting. I tried to get in touch with the mayor, and I wasn't able to. There was some miscommunication there. The same thing with the fire chief because I wanted to present them with this information. There's other things such as seatbelt requirements. Yes, the truck has a seatbelt, but it has to meet in a certain specification. The actual seat you ride in has to meet a certain specification. There has to be a vehicle data recorder in the truck. Like these airplanes, the flight data recorder, a fire truck now has to have one. I'm pretty sure these Macs don't have them built in, so that's going to be an extra cost that wasn't thought about if we want to bring that truck up to the full 1901 standard. There's also another standard involved if you don't build a truck and you refurbish it. It's called NFPA 1912, and that was the standard that was never discussed, and I've got a paragraph I want to read to you out of here. When should you refurbish an apparatus? Apparatus or refurbish should comply with requirements of NFPA 1912. A thorough cost-benefits analysis of the value, upgrading or refurbishing a fire apparatus should be conducted. In many instances, it will be found that refurbishing cost will greatly exceed the current value of similar apparatus. Experience has shown that refurbishing the apparatus that is over 20 years old, other than paint or repair the apparatus, is a very poor investment. So you budget committee members, think about that. This is, according to this book, it's a very poor investment. If the motor blows, you got to replace that motor to the spec of this book here to follow what the county attorney said. That motor ain't going to cost $5,000. It's going to cost a whole lot more than that. These are high mileage trucks that were never designed to be a fire truck. Even if we do bring these trucks up to code, it still was never intentionally designed to be a fire apparatus. I've spoke with every fire chief in this county, including the municipalities. Think about this. I've spoken to every single one of your fire chiefs. I've asked them, when you get a truck, what code do you follow? We would follow NFPA 1901, no questions asked. It was brought up that some departments can't follow all the NFPA codes, but in our county, they all do on 1901. They might not follow a code over here, a code over there, but when it comes to their trucks, they follow 1901. I talked with the rural fire chiefs. It was unanimous. They're adamantly against this idea. This was never brought up to them at their Chiefs Association meeting. Although these trucks aren't necessarily going to their department, it was never even brought up and discussed. So your volunteer fire chiefs, with the exception of the Barfield community, they're against this. But I got a letter a NIOSH report I want to read off the internet. And this is kind of tough for me because it involves a friend of mine. September 5th, 2002, a small brush fire was reported in the Amaville Volunteer Fire Department. Was dispatched to it. The first firefighter arrived on the scene and reported the fire had grown and to send more equipment. Firefighter Jackson had arrived at the fire station and called the chief on the radio to see the department needed the tanker truck would be needed. The chief directed the firefighter Jackson to bring the tanker to the scene in a non-emergency fashion, no lights, no siren. Firefighter Jackson was the sole occupant of the driver of a 2002 model Freightliner tanker with a 2,000-gallon water tank. He traveled to the scene and the right wheels of the tanker left the roadway. Firefighter Jackson applied the brakes and turned steering wheel sharply to the left. The back end of the tanker came around, and the tanker experienced a rollover and ended up in the field of the right side of the roadway. The crash was reported, and members of the Amaville Volunteer Fire Department were working the scene of the brush fire. Members of the department responded to the scene and called for assistance upon arrival. Firefighter Jackson was trapped in the cab of the truck, and a difficult extrication was required to remove him. Upon his removal, Firefighter Jackson was transported to the hospital where he was later pronounced dead. The water tanker was full. It was baffled. It was up to code. This was a compliant truck. Firefighter Jackson received emergency vehicle operation training. He was trained. The cause of death was listed as multiple trauma. Why that's important to me is I responded to that call that day. I had to cut him out. I was covered head to toe in his blood. Not one of y'all in here can tell me what it's like to bury one of your friends that you cut somebody out of and they die in your hands. Joe Reed and Eric Gettner were the paramedics for the county that responded that day. They did everything they could. By you trying to get a tanker that was not meant for fire service operation is slapping these volunteers in the face. The majority of the volunteer fire department and at the county fire department has begged me, Matt, you got to stop this. This is crazy. Now, I want to commend Mr. Farley, Chief Farley, for trying to save money. I think that's awesome. If more department heads do that, this county would be a lot better off. But saving money and cutting corners is two separate things. You don't cut corners on safety. Period. These people volunteer. We're not paying them a dime. If they all quit tomorrow, what would that cost the county? Some of the questions, I'd like to now suspend the rules and allow Mr. Farley to come up here and answer questions to the commission. And I've got some questions I'd like to ask him, so I make a motion to suspend the rules.
In favor of suspending the rules, please say aye. Does the commission wish Mr. Farley to come forward and y'all want to ask him questions? Come on up, Mr. Farley, and ask questions and answer questions, excuse me. Who would like to start this discussion? Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Farley, thank you for your time, and thank you, Commissioner Young, for presenting this and bringing this to our attention in such a real way. Mr. Farley, help those like myself and those in the audience and on television that are not associated with the fire department and don't know all the codes and don't know what might be safe and what might not be safe. What was the county logic, or what was your logic and your team's logic in behind thinking that this was obviously saving some money, but with these trucks, I mean, have they been changed before in other counties where that was successful, or do you have any background like that you could just kind of give to myself and other members of the commission on why we're making this decision to use some of the older trucks?
Well, basically, these trucks, actually, the commissioner talked about refurbishing. We're not refurbishing a fire truck. Refurbish, you have to have a fire truck to start with. When the article come out in the paper about the lack of water pressure in some of the communities, Director Nolan called me and said, I've got 2 trucks that I will offer the fire department to put tanks on. I've called and talked to several companies about speccing the tanks out, baffles, make sure they're compliant, 1901 compliant. Actually, these trucks are heavier trucks, chassis-wise and frame-wise, than what normally a fire truck would be. This is probably twice the truck that we would have if we spec'd out a truck. Director Nolan also said that this truck with a 2,200-gallon tank on the back of it would be low profile. Actually, it probably wouldn't even come up to the cab. That the truck with a 2,200-gallon tank on the back of it was probably more safer than it was using an open top container on that full of trash or garbage or whatever. So the truck is heavy enough to handle the tank weight-wise. And this was a way that, I mean, a brand new tanker would run anywhere from $225,000 to $250,000. Knowing the way that the county money is, I just brought this before the public safety and the budget, trying to put in place a way to haul water that was cost efficient. This was meant as a patch, not a permanent fix. Of course, I would like to have new tankers. I'd like to have one new tanker would be fine. The reason behind this, on the north side of the county, there's Las Casas, Walter Hill, Kittrell, and Allenville have 3,000-gallon tanks. Except for Walter Hill, they have a 2,000-gallon tank. On the south side of the interstate, there's nothing except the engines. The specs were, I intended to have it up to 1901, with the exception, it would not be 1901, because 1901 requires that the truck have lights and sirens. This truck was not going to have a siren because it was not going to run in merchant traffic. But the truck is heavy enough. I'm not sure about the 10-speed transmission. Mr. Nolan told me it was a 5-speed. I just took his word at it. I haven't looked at that close. But all I was trying to do is put into place something to be able to transport water at a low cost to the county.
Commissioner Phillips. Tiffany.
Farley, would you please let us know, as a body, I know many of us are on the Public Safety Committee, but some of us don't understand the need for the water in the south end of the county.
Well, Christiana, Christiana, the Midland Rockville area and Fossil area, the development out in these areas, the water pressure has gone down to nothing. We have red top hydrants that will flow about 500 gallons or less. CUD had notified me that a lot of these hydrants had just pretty much gone to black hydrants, that they were useless. And CUD was looking actually taking them out of the ground. So in the certain areas out in the Midland, the Rockville, Christiana, and Fossil communities, the hydrants may be miles away from the nearest hydrant. And when you hook to that hydrant, it may be dead. You may not have any fire flow or water flow. So the longer it takes us to shuttle water to a structure fire, the more better chances of my guys being inside and running out of water. So that was basically my purpose for trying to establish water tankers.
Commissioner P. and then Commissioner Schaefer. Commissioner Schaefer.
Mr. Farley, let's say we're somewhere in the neighborhood of Link Road and Threet Road. That's out in the middle of nowhere when you get out there. And if the first truck on the scene runs out of water, what happens with a fire out there, be it a structure fire or a brush fire? Where do they get water from?
Water is our #1 extinguishing agent. Without water, we're pretty much just
okay. Well, what I'm getting at is there's none available there. The place is going to burn. If it's structure and brush, then it's going to keep going. So we could go the same way. Let's down at Hoover Gap and one of those out there around Sledge Road in that area. What do we have out there? Is there good water out there that for the county to use?
The further you get out away from the city, the lower the water pressure goes.
So what it is, it sounds to me like we're in a rock and a hard place.
Yes, sir. and basically, I mean, and I know the story that Commissioner Young is speaking of. We do EVOC training, which is emergency vehicle operations. We do Vanessa K. I was going to make sure that everybody who drove these vehicles were trained. I'm just going to throw anybody in there. With that said, we have volunteers out here, and now the difference between a volunteer and a professional, they're professionals. The only difference between a volunteer and a Murfreesboro firefighter or a Smyrna firefighter is one's paid and one's not. We hold the same training standards in the county. We do the same kind of training, and we try to do the best we can. But you need to understand, these apparatus that they're driving, whether it be 1901 compliant or not, can still turn over, they can still roll, and they can still kill us. What we do as a volunteer and what Commissioner Young does as a paid is a very dangerous business. When we go into a house that is burning when everybody else is running out, we run the danger when everybody's running away. So, I mean, with that said, any one of a firefighter could be killed inside a structure fire en route to a structure fire. But the biggest #1 killer of volunteer firefighters is responding in POVs, which is a personally owned vehicle. That's the biggest majority of how volunteers are killed.
Let me sum up then what I was asking. So we either need to approve a temporary solution until money comes, because I don't think we have 175,000 to 225,000, somewhere in that range, floating around to buy a tanker truck to put out at one of the volunteer places in the county at this time. So either we're faced with these two trucks that can provide water, or the people in the county out on the south side of Shelbyville Highway, one way or the other. And this, if they have a big fire, they're in trouble.
You know, my job is I was hired to increase the fire protection in Rutherford County, and I bring things that try to work with the budget that I'm given, and I try to offer a economical way to haul water. I bring that before you commissioners, and what you decide to do, I live with.
B.
Somebody asked a minute ago what that meant for the people out the Barfield or the areas you're talking about that don't have these tankers. You know, what it means is a lot of money to your constituents out there, the people that live in that area, because the ISO ratings will be lower in that part of the county. They are already. You know, there's parts of the county now that have ratings that are 5. And you're not going to see that out in the Fosterville area. You're not going to see that out toward Rockvale without these tankers or better water, because that's one way you're rated for ISO. And what that can mean is hundreds of dollars per year per person out there for insurance rates. If you get those insurance rates down, then I know when we dropped them at Kittrell in our area, I had people calling me that said, hey, they'd save $200-300 a year on their insurance. So that's what it means to those people out there. And what does it mean to a firefighter? There's 2 things being a firefighter that have scared the living daylights out of me, and that was inside a burning building and my air stopped. And I'm telling you, it really makes you think, what am I doing here? And the other is when you lose water. And I darn sure wouldn't wish that on anybody. You don't want to be in a burning building and lose water or air. But having these tankers can mean the difference in saving somebody's property. I've rolled up on scenes where they've told me that I've had people in that house that are trapped. And I've got to go in there. I'm going to go in there. You know, that could be my daughter in there or my wife. But I want as much equipment backing me up as I can get. Now, this is what we can get. It's not necessarily the best thing out there. These tanks that he's talking about installing, that's where the cost is. The trucks are free to us, I assume that way. But those tanks can be put on different trucks when these trucks are no longer any good.
These tanks have a lifetime guarantee, regardless of what chassis they're on.
And they're baffled. You know, that's one thing. I've drove tankers. If you've ever been in a truck that wasn't baffled and you got to stop, you get shoved, and you'll get shoved every time that water sloshes, and it can shove you off the road. It can roll you in the ditch. But anyway, the reason I voted for this in public safety is because it's needed in that area. The reason I voted for it in budget is because it's physically responsible and it's needed in that area. And I would suggest we all do that.
Commissioner Young made a comment about the volunteers wanting to stop this. They have not said anything to me about this. I don't discuss with them how I run my department, nor do they call me and discuss with me how they run their department. They're different chartered entities. They do have a contract with the county to meet certain standards. My job is to make sure that they meet those standards as far as training and maintenance of their vehicles that the county has given them. But as far as how I run my department, I don't discuss it with them, and they don't discuss with me what their plans are.
Okay, Commissioner Sandlin.
That was one part of my question there that I wanted to ask, that statement of the volunteers wanting to stop this, and that was...
They haven't said anything to me about it.
Nobody said anything about it.
No, sir, and most of the time they're very vocal. They don't have a problem stating how they feel.
I know they are. I've got 2 in my district, and you know, the gentleman that died was in my district, you know, in Amoville, and I'm not going to take a second away from that. I don't know what mistake was made, if there was any at all. I mean, a life was lost, and you can't take that away from him. And you know, he died trying to save a fire, trying to put out a fire, and that was his job. one of the questions that was stated in that situation with this situation or any tanker truck, are they extra training or extra licensed, with like semi-truck license, to drive these? I mean, is there certain men or women that can only drive these water trucks, and that's the way it's done, or is it and I would hope that it's not a free-for-all. Whoever gets to the fire department first can take the water truck out, if we need it or something.
We have set up in the county department, these trucks that the county has purchased and give the volunteer fire departments in the private sector, you would have to have a CDL to drive any of these trucks, even the ones you've bought. My department requires extensive training. There are people who are certified as drivers, and there's people who are not certified drivers. So I've had fire calls where we were called out to a fire or wreck, and I had a rescue respond, but I didn't have a fire truck to respond because I had no driver that was there or was en route to get the truck, so the truck didn't roll. I had firefighters sitting there waiting to get on it, but there wasn't a driver available. The truck didn't roll. And Commissioner Young is familiar with that because he's dealt with that before.
Commissioner P.
I address that also. I know how Kittrell, over the years, to be able to drive a vehicle, you have to go through extensive training. EVOC every year is one of the minimum requirements. But you have to meet those requirements or you do not get behind the wheel. And that's, I don't know any of you, some of you I know sitting here have done the EVOC training, but it's hard to do. Parallel parking a 40-foot fire engine, going through serpentines, and then going through them backwards, backing into alleyways, going into a restricted lane that tapers down, and you have to pass it. It's timed, and you get points taken off for every time they have little cones set up. And if you're not driving where you should be, you fail. And if you fail, you don't drive. And there's minimum age requirements. And as far as I know, all the volunteer fire departments are like that now. And that's one of the hard things about the volunteer fire departments is we need good drivers, especially ones that live close to the stations. And finding that combination, people that are available and that are qualified to drive, is one of the difficulties of the volunteers in this county and any other county. Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. McAdoo, and then let's let him go next, please.
Thank you. As far as the volunteer fire department, normally they don't call me for anything, but I did get calls on this, and they were against refurbishing these trucks. And they gave me several reasons. They mentioned braking system, the water load on the chassis, and just going in and changing specification altogether on that vehicle. Now, legally, I would have to ask the question, if we go in and modify this vehicle, and like one spoke, we talked at length last night, and he's driving down the road and brakes give out or water slush or whatever, and he accidentally hurt several people. Now, who would be liable for that would be a question I got to ask. But as far as the volunteers, they did call me, and I'm a city commissioner, and we talked at length last night concerning this issue. So I would have to ask on a legal basis who would be responsible legally if something like this happened and fall back on the county. As I'm thinking, maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it fall back on that volunteer. I don't know. But that's a question that's got to be answered. Since I got the floor, this was discussed several years ago on that south side of development, and we were promised that the development on those houses would have sprinkler systems and everything else, and we knew about the CUD water and the fire hydrants. So apparently that, is not an issue now. The issue is we need water in that area. Okay, a question I got for Chief Farley. Since the northern side got 3 tankers, is it any way possible we can borrow one of those tankers and move them to the south side?
They're private entities. Most of those tankers are they're owned by their department, If we were a county department, we could move. If everybody was in the county was part of the county, we could move these units around to justify it. But I cannot take their tankers away from them. They bought that with their
ask.
I could ask them, but I know what the answer would be. I mean, no.
Still you can
and
ask.
As far as that, Commissioner, when a firefighter is driving a vehicle, and no matter what the vehicle is, whether it's county owned or privately owned, if I'm driving a fire truck and I negligently run through a red light or I hit somebody and kill somebody, they could take my home, they could take everything I got, but I promise you, out of the 22 trucks that the county has bought, if any one of those trucks wreck, the county's going to be liable because they're titled to the county. I mean, because they got the deepest pockets. That's who they're going to go after.
Well, this volunteer last night was concerned about that, and this particular volunteer, he's been doing it for several years. He says he volunteers out on the south side in that area on every Thursday, and he moved here, and prior to that, he worked with the metro system in Nashville. So he did have a concern. So if one called me, then, I'm going to have to bring it up because I'm a city commissioner, and I'm blessed. Around the corner, I got all kinds of fire protection. Another question I got, you saying that a new tanker would cost between $225,000 to $250,000. How long would it take to get a new tanker in here if you had the money to purchase the new tanker?
It depends on where you get at, and of course we'd have to put it out to bid. But you have some companies that have them already pre-built, and then it depends on if we spec out a truck and they have a truck in stock that's pre-built, we could have it in 2 or 3 months. The longest time would probably be a year if you spec one out and then put it out. The time it goes out, time you put the specs out and it goes out to bid and it's purchased, it could be up to 7, 8 months to a year.
Looked at putting something together to send it through the proper committees on purpose?
Well, I mean, I've got grants into the Assistant Firefighter grants for a new engine. I've got one for a new rescue truck because they have priorities. FEMA has a priority of what they'll award. Tankers are low on the list. Engines are high on the list. The newest truck I've got is 12 years old. So I put in for a new engine. I put in for a new rescue truck. I've got one new rescue truck. The rest of them are wore out. I spent $1,600 on one today putting new ECM, the brain of the thing, and a few oil line and a oil injector. So I'm constantly working on them. But I mean, the tankers are not high on the priority for grants. I've got grants in for 2 sets of rescue tools, a engine, and a rescue truck. But if you look at what FEMA awards, tankers are low on the priority list.
I know they're low on the priority list, but since this has been a big safety issue for the south side of Rutherford County, it may be that we'll have to absorb the cost. That's what I'm looking at. Anytime you refurbish a truck that got 500,000 miles on it, it may get 1 mile and it may get 100 miles.
And the only reason I considered this, after talking with Director Nolan, he assured me that these trucks had been maintained, had been maintenance. If this had been somebody who would just offer me a truck that I didn't know the background on it, I would have said no. But Director Nolan said that these trucks have been well maintenance, well maintained. Mac out of Nashville does all the maintenance. He had all the maintenance records. One of the engines had been rebuilt. The front end of one had been rebuilt, and he said the other one was in good shape. If they hadn't been, he wouldn't have offered them to me. But based on what you gentlemen and ladies vote on, I respect and move on. I just try. I know our funds are limited. I put in for trucks, and they've been cut from my budget, and so I'm just trying to do the best I can with the funds that I've been granted with. I discussed this with Mayor Burgess, and he said it was something we can entertain and move forward. I stated my cases to the Budget Committee and Public Safety, and based on what y'all decide is what I have to live with.
But even though we refurbish and modify these trucks, this is not a long-term fix.
No, and I told the Budget Committee and I told Public Safety that this was a patch. This was a short-term patch until the times got better, economical times got better, where the county could afford to maybe purchase a couple of tankers down the road. So this is all I was trying to do is put together a plan to be able to move water, and if we get 2 years out of it, I'll be happy. But the other mitigating factor in this was that if these tanks are lifetime guaranteed, They're poly tanks. So we can take these tanks off these chassis and mount them on another chassis. Later on, if y'all decide to do this and the county wants to buy new chassis, I can take these tanks off those chassis and put them on new chassis.
And that chassis is going to run anywhere from 225 to 250.
But I'm talking about a complete tanker. I'm talking about it. When I was with the last Cass's chief, we got an AFG grant for a 3,000-gallon tanker. Had a 750 GPM pump, 2 crosslays on it, so you could actually fight fire with it. But that was for the AFG. But this is, like I say, is a short-term fix. But I'm talking about a tanker with that you can have 2 outlets with it. It has you can pump with it. So I mean, you're talking about one that's a lot more in detail, I guess, than what these would be.
In other words, we do have tankers out there on the market that cost less than $225,000 and $250,000.
Well, I've priced them. I've looked at them, and I think the cheapest one I found was $210,000. And but I mean, you know, back when we bought the one in 2004, I wrote a check for $154,000 for that one. But that's been several years ago, and when we bought this rescue truck, I was down there looking at tankers, and that was the prices they were giving me. Were anywhere from about $225,000.
Commissioner Tiffany Phillips was next, I think, and then Commissioner Young will go to you.
What size did you say these tanks were going to be?
Well, they're actually 2,200 gallons.
Okay.
And with the trucks being so long, that actually brings the center of gravity of those trucks down because the tanks are more long and profiled because the frame is much longer.
Now, how long will 2,200 gallons last at a fire?
Our 02 trucks that the county bought has 1,250 gallons on it. The 01 trucks have 1,000 gallons on it. So this will be transporting twice as much water.
But for us people who are not firefighters?
It depends on how many gallons per minute that you be flowing at that fire. Well, we'll just give you an idea. When an engine rolls up and starts attacking a fire with about 1,250 gallons, it's about 10, 15 minutes worth of water.
Okay. If a fire department has a foam system, does that help? Does that use less water?
Foam has a better extinguishing agent and smothers the fire more so than water.
I'd just like to point out that Fosterville has a foam system, so that would even help even more with the south end.
It's on more of a brush truck-like unit for wildland fires.
Okay. I want to point out to the commissioners that I want you to sit for just a second and think about if you lived exactly where I live right now. I've looked as I'm driving around. I have not seen a single fire hydrant that we could even hook up to because they're all red tops. And it's my understanding that we can't even legally hook up to a red top. Is that correct?
We can, but the situation that they're in now, you could hook to them and there'd be nothing there.
Okay. And if a fire broke out in my home, I live on a cul-de-sac, and we're so far out that more than likely several other homes around me would probably catch on fire as well. And so we're looking at a potentially dangerous situation here, especially with the way that the weather was last summer. And, you know, people were on my cul-de-sac shooting off bottle rockets and firecrackers. And I just knew something was going to happen. And so that's how important getting water to the south end of the county is. Now, I understand that if a fire was to break out, that I'm sure somebody on the north end would bring their tanker, but you're talking 40 minutes once somebody gets to that tanker to and then starts rolling. It takes 40 minutes for me to get from my house to Walter Hill Church of Christ, where I go to church every Sunday and Wednesday night. So that's a lot of time that you're talking about. Somebody's life could be in danger. And, you know, to me, when I think about a fire breaking out in my house, I'm not really concerned about the house so much as my cat, my daughter, my husband, you know, somebody being in the house. And so, obviously, I would like to save the house. But the most important thing is, you know, of course, family members and then other people's property as well. So, please think about that. Also, could you explain to us the difference between the NFPA standards? We've heard NFPA standards and we've heard IFC codes. And so we've heard both of those terms thrown around. Could you explain to us what those are and what the difference is?
NFPA codes are codes that are set forth by the National Fire Protection Agency. And basically, anything dealing with the fire service, they have a standard that they have written about the way that you should handle each situation, build trucks, turnout gear, helmets, whatever dealing with firefighters. ISO is the insurance rating of what your insurance, the ISO grade level, the lower it is, the better your insurance is. And the ISO ratings are 50% of that grade is based on water supply. If you have a green top hydrant and have plenty of water, then your ISO rating is going to be a lot lower. These tankers also affect that because we have insurance companies call my office every day. They want to know about a house in a certain situation. They want to know how much water can be on the scene of any given address in my district or in the county, and we give them based on the information I have on what each individual volunteer fire department has to provide.
One more thing before, sorry. On that note, I think it's important to note that people, when they bought these houses out in this area, yes, there was fire hydrants out there. People just don't understand, and I'm sure real estate agents are not going to tell you, oh, that's a red hot top, you're not going to have any water out here. And so I'm not saying that, it's not their fault that they're ignorant about that, but I myself did not understand that whenever I purchased my home. So, and there's a lot of people out there who do not understand that.
One thing I want to say is that being NFPA compliant, there's NFPA 1791, I believe, it talks about staffing. If you want to look at being NFPA compliant, we'll never be NFPA compliant with volunteers. Dallas, the city of Dallas, Fort Worth, Chicago, New York City, no fire department in this country can be totally NFPA compliant. It would bankrupt that county or that city. So I understand Commissioner Young's compassion for the NFPA, and everybody tries to meet those standards, but I promise you there's no way that this county, any large municipality can ever be NFPA compliant.
Commissioner Young.
All right, Commissioner Farley, I want to ask some facts from you. The first was on grants. You did apply to the AFG and to no avail. Have you applied to any other grants for a tanker?
Well, the other one I discussed with you about, but we're not eligible for that one.
The county is not eligible, but Fosterville, Rockville, Eagleville are eligible for a tanker through the Community Development Block Grant Program. Putnam counties receive tankers that way. There's several counties across the state. I'd like to see us try those avenues. Have we approached Christy Houston?
Commissioner, I cannot force these volunteers to apply for grants.
Okay, well, let's just go with the questions. And
Have we asked Christy Houston, or have we asked CUD to help donate money towards this problem that's partially their fault?
The answer is no.
The answer is no. So we haven't tried other avenues other than AFG. Have we done a needs assessment study on our county to determine the needs and locations of fire apparatus, fire tankers, and the needed fire flow for the ISO rating?
No. Well, Kevin did a study some years ago.
I've got that study from 04 right here if we want to talk about it. We need a 450-gallon-a-minute flow. That's what you need for your ISO rating. Have you asked ISO if these new tankers will even count to be eligible since they're responding non-emergency?
Well, to answer your question, no, sir, I haven't, because I'm more worried about supplying water supply for my firefighters than I am, and keeping them alive and protecting property than I am about ISO, because there comes a time as a fire chief we have to make a decision what's more important. And everything that we need is a fire department. I can't base everything on ISO. I have to base it on what gives me the best protection, the best to protect my firefighters, and what protects that home. So, and there's things that Murfreesboro has, Smyrna has that they need, but doesn't necessarily give them ISO points.
I'll agree with you wholeheartedly on that comment. ISO is not everything. Remember, I said that. My next question is, what is a tanker? According to ISO, according to NFPA, according to the fire manufacturers,
Actually,
what is a tanker? What is a tanker?
Mr. Young, we want you to have all the information you can get, but we're not here to really quote, what I'll sort of say, interrogate Mr. Farley.
Mr. Chairman, with all duly noted, I think we've been misled on what a tanker is, and I would like to know
what a tanker is. He told us what it is.
A tanker
is an aircraft.
An aircraft, and I'm not talking about an aircraft. A water tender. I apologize. A water tender is a apparatus that carries mobile water supply of 1,250 gallons and the ability to dump 1,000 gallons. Correct. Now, I wasn't sure of your comment earlier. Did you say there was no tank, like CUD water tank south of I-24, or no tankers south of I-24?
There are no tenders the south side of the interstate, except for one. Rockville has a 1,600-gallon tender. So I stand corrected, Commissioner.
Well, according to my calculations, we have 7 1,250-gallon tankers that are county-owned, tenders on the south side, one 5,000-gallon tender. That's Midland Fosterville's 5,000-gallon tank.
It's not in service.
I talked with Chief Walker, and he said if there's a fire, it rolls. They're missing a couple of adapters on it, and it is in service. I've talked with Chief Walker and confirmed that. If y'all like to call him, you can. That is Midland Fosterville's 5,000-gallon tanker that exists. That serves your community, Commissioner Phillips.
Okay,
it's there. Do you know with the fire flow requirements on the south side of the county, when you add up the number of gallons, we have 22,350 gallons of water on the south side of the county in fire trucks to respond. I just want to make sure that information is correct. I mean, that's according to my calculations, when you add the number of tankers and the number of engines on the county, that's how many gallons of water we have responding. I think we've been misled on what we really need, and we haven't had a study to show it. And I mean, if you can tell me otherwise, I'd be...
The engines, the O1s and the O2s, the O1s haul 1,000 gallons of water. The O2s haul 1,250 gallons. They do have a drop chute off the back. They are considered engine and tankers. But when you set one of those trucks up to attack a structure fire, that truck is committed, and it cannot run back and forth.
You're correct, but you only use one attack engine and the rest are shuttles. How many times in the last year on the south side of the county have we used a drop tank operation for fire operations where you would use tenders in this operation?
I have no way of answering that. I've not been to all the fires. I can't go to all the fires. I mean, I can't.
I didn't know with your new data management. If you can't answer that, I understand. I just want to make aware of the situation. And there's some other things I have in discussion. I appreciate your time, and I want to commend you for doing a good job. I do think you're doing a good job. I think you're looking out for the best interests of the county when it comes to money. You're very fiscally responsible, and I'm not trying to attack you personally or your credibility. I just want some facts and some questions answered, and I apologize if some have been offensive or whatnot, but I appreciate your time and appreciate it. If anybody else has got questions.
Anyone else have a question? Ms. Allen.
You talked about the rural fire halls being independent. Are you concerned at all about not being able to place this tanker if the rural volunteers have said they don't want it? What would you do with it?
I was going to put one at my Station 2 on Salem Highway. I was going to put the other one on Manchester Highway at that station. That way, I had one tanker going out Manchester Highway, which would cover Christiana and Fossil area. I had one on 99, which would cover Rockville and Eagle, and those out that way. So I've got them going out. That's where I would place them at Station 2 of the Ruff County Fire Station and Station 3 of the Ruff County Fire Station.
You're certain that you'd be able to use them if you're able to get them? We don't need to be concerned about the fact that volunteers won't accept them or don't want them?
I wouldn't offer them now. This is for my department. But I would roll them on anything that they needed them on and request them for.
Mr. McCreary, I have a question just in terms of the liability. I know I read the letter, the legal opinion that the county attorney's office provided to Commissioner Young. Is there any greater liability in using this type of retrofitted vehicle as long as it is up to the standard of care that was quoted, the 1901 specs, the CDL training or whatever the appropriate training would be for a driver? Do you see any additional liability in driving this type of vehicle versus any other emergency vehicle the county operates?
Well, liability, of course, always a difficult question. Nobody's got a crystal ball on what the facts are in the particular circumstance and so forth. But I think that the short answer is probably no. I would not anticipate there being necessarily increased liability simply because the issue that I think a judge or jury is looking at is what is the standard. And the question is going to be whether or not these trucks deviate from that standard. And if they don't deviate, then I don't see any increased liability by virtue of the trucks themselves. If they do deviate from whatever is determined to be the applicable standard, then there may be liability regardless of where you got the trucks, because you have a deviation from the standard. The harder question probably here is, what's the standard? Because we've been throwing out all these different terms, fire codes and so forth, and I don't know what the standard is, and that's what judges and juries would determine, is what is the applicable standard, and then whether or not these particular trucks deviate from that standard.
One of those things too, 1901, to be compliant with 1901, these trucks would not be compliant with 1901 for one simple fact. And then 1901 states that it has to have a red lights and siren on it. I wasn't going to do that because I didn't want to run emergency traffic. I wanted to drive normal traffic because there's time that the first truck gets on the scene, sets up fire attack, this truck comes in and drops water and goes back to the hydrant.
So really the appropriate term in my mind would be a retrofit, not a refurbish.
Yes, ma'am. You're correct.
Farley, Mr. Will Jordan.
I want to call the question.
Thank you.
Call for the question. Do we have a second? Who was that? Excuse me. Commissioner Turner, second. We have a call for the question, Mr.
Chairman,
Young.
point of order. He was up for, we haven't ceased the suspended rules and we haven't gone back into discussion.
We don't have to go back in session. I mean,
do we not?
just speaking during session, you suspended to allow him to speak. We haven't left session.
Well, we suspended the rules to allow him to come to speak, and there might be some other people that wanted to discuss that didn't get a chance to. They might not want to ask a question.
The commission, they always have an opportunity, a right to call for the question. Question's been called for. All in favor of the question, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? 1. Opposed? 2. All right, let the record reflect 2 opposed to the question. The question passed.
Chairman, if it's not unanimous, I believe we go back into discussion. If the call for the question, I believe that's correct. According to Robert's Rules of Order, we go back into discussion. If it's not a unanimous consent, we go back into.
Look, but we call for the question. That means we had a motion on the table to approve this budget item that was put forth, that was properly motioned and seconded. And we've called for the question after we've had the extensive discussion to vote on that motion. And we'll let Mr. McCreary look at that. But once we vote on the call for the question, Mr. Stevens, 2/3 vote on the question? We had more than 2/3. We had a 19-2 vote. 2/3 majority on the question, and we're ready to vote. It's just about that simple. We got a 19-2 vote. So when call for questions, it's a simple matter. We vote. It's all over. The chair is ruling with the advice of the attorney that we're ready to vote on this motion. The question has been called. It's been properly approved by a vote of 19-2. Please cast your votes. The motion on the floor is put forth by the chairperson of the Budget and Finance Committee is to appropriate $55,000 to properly provide for 2 tanks to go to be placed on 2 trucks that'll be granted free. I mean, that was the explanation. That's what we're voting on. Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
13 yes, 5 no, 2 abstain. Motion passes.
Mrs. Ealy, would you please continue?
We are ready for item J2B, Special Purpose Fund Budget Amendment. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the Special Purpose DEA Fund be amended as follows. Sheriff's Department increased revenue from asset forfeiture funds, $15,902. Increased expenditures, $10,000 for in-service training, $5,902 for confidential enforcement. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Mr. Jernigan, any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
19 yes, 1 abstain. Motion passes.
Item J2C, General Purpose School Fund Budget Amendment. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the General Purpose School Fund be amended as follows. Operation of plant, maintenance of plant, and transportation, increased revenue, insurance recovery, $98,816, increased expenditures, operation of plant, building and contents insurance, $39,116, maintenance of plant, maintenance and repair of buildings, $20,000, transportation, vehicle and equipment insurance, $39,700. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second from Commissioner Jernigan. Thank you. Any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
19 yes, motion passes.
Item J2D, a resolution authorizing increasing the public officials' bond for a property assessor. Whereas at the regular meeting of the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners on August 16, 2012, a resolution was adopted approving the public officials' statutory bond for Mr. Robert E. Mitchell, assessor of property, in the amount of $10,000. And whereas the State of Tennessee, Comptroller of the Treasury, has notified Rutherford County that Public Chapter 974 Acts of 2012 amended the statutes relative to surety bonds for assessors of property and highway officials to provide that such surety bonds are to be transmitted to the county clerk for safekeeping, and additionally, the Act deleted the provisions that surety bonds for these officials be transmitted to the Comptroller of the Treasury. And whereas the Act further changed the threshold for the surety bond for assessors to $50,000. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the public officials' bond for Mr. Robert E. Mitchell, assessor of property, be increased from $10,000 to $50,000. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second from Commissioner Jordan. Any discussion? Please cast, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Item J2E, a resolution authorizing employer group waiver plan with supplemental wrap for retirees. Whereas it is being proposed that Rutherford County implement an employer group waiver plan with supplemental wrap to provide coordination of benefits and to further reduce member out-of-pocket cost. Whereas Rutherford County currently participates in the Retiree Drug Subsidy Program and receives a reimbursement from the federal government for the amount that the retiree spends toward pharmaceutical cost after a required threshold is met. And whereas with the EQIP, the employer group would no longer have to provide additional coverage in the gap, and the plan would offer standard basic coverage in the coverage gap, i.e. no additional coverage beyond the Medicare standard. And whereas a supplemental non-Part D wrap pharmacy plan offered in addition to the employer retiree prescription drug plan would coordinate with the primary Medicare Part D plan, thereby reducing the employer's liability in the coverage gap. And whereas it is estimated that by implementing the EQIP, Rutherford County would realize an estimated annual savings of $349,736. And whereas Cigna currently administers the retiree medical and pharmacy plans, and there would be no additional costs to Rutherford County to implement the EQIP, and Cigna proposing a 3-year rate guarantee for the program. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and any other appropriate officials of Rutherford County be authorized to execute all necessary documents to implement the employer group waiver plan for the Rutherford County Health Insurance Plan as proposed by Cigna with a 3-year rate guarantee effective January 1, 2013. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second from Commissioner Jordan. Any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
19 yes, motion passes.
Item J2F, a resolution authorizing accepting Christie Houston Foundation grant and a related budget amendment. Whereas Rutherford County has been informed of a grant award from the Christie Houston Foundation in the amount of $389,000, and whereas $264,000 has been awarded to the Rutherford County Emergency Medical Service to replace 12 cardiac monitors for 12 frontline ambulances. And whereas $125,000 has been awarded to assist in constructing a fire station for the Midland-Fosterville area, with said funds to be deposited directly into the Midland-Fosterville Fire Station project in the General Capital Projects Fund. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor be and is hereby authorized to accept the grant award from the Christie Houston Foundation in the amount of $389,000, and additionally, that the Ambulance Service Fund be amended as follows to appropriate the grant award for the purpose of providing funds to replace 12 cardiac monitors for 12 frontline ambulances. Emergency Medical Service increased revenue from contributions, $264,000, increased expenditure for health equipment, $264,000. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Jeff Jordan, second. Any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
19 yes, motion passes.
Item J2G, a resolution authorizing the purchase of New Dawn Technologies court case management system for circuit court clerk and a related budget amendment. Whereas the circuit court clerk's current computer system was acquired in 1989, and it is very antiquated, inefficient, and no longer meets the demands of the office. And whereas over the past 18 months, the circuit court clerk, with the assistance of the Information Technology Department, has researched replacing the current computer system and conducted initial reviews of vendors in January and February 2012 and subsequent reviews of vendors with GSA pricing schedules with the office staff, local attorneys, the judiciary, and judicial commissioners participating in the process. And whereas the vendors were ranked and scored, and as a result, New Dawn Technologies is being recommended as the proposed vendor to supply a new case management system in all of the offices under jurisdiction of the circuit court clerk at a cost of $737,800, with an initial down payment of $282,317 upon signing the contract, and monthly payments estimated at $25,304 for a period of 18 months. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and all other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are hereby authorized to enter into a contract with New Dawn Technologies, subject to review and approval by the county attorney, for the provision of acquiring a court case management computer system for all offices under the jurisdiction of the circuit court clerk at a cost of $737,800, with an initial payment of $282,317 upon signing the contract, and monthly payments of $25,304 for a period of 18 months. And additionally, that the general fund be amended as follows to provide funding for the project. Circuit Court, from unassigned fund balance, $300,000, and restricted for capital, the development tax, $437,800, to data processing equipment, $737,800. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second from Commissioner Schaefer. Was that McAdoo as well? Or? I think so, yes. And Commissioner Jernigan. Okay. Discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item J2H, a resolution authorizing grant contracts with the Tennessee Department of Children's Services for the provision of community intervention services and custody prevention services. Whereas Rutherford County desires to accept a grant contract from the Tennessee Department of Children's Services for the provision of community intervention services in the amount of $46,448, which provides pass-through funding for the Genesis Teen Tracks program. And whereas Rutherford County also desires to accept a grant contract from the Tennessee Department of Children's Services for the provision of custody prevention services in the amount of $417,696, which provides pass-through funding to the Genesis Teen Learning Program. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and any other appropriate officials of Rutherford County be and are hereby authorized to execute the grant contracts with the State of Tennessee Department of Children's Services, copies of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2, and incorporated herein by reference, as if set forth herein at length verbatim, for the provision of community intervention services in the amount of $46,448, and for the provision of custody prevention services in the amount of $417,696, to provide pass-through funding to the Genesis Learning Center for the period beginning July 1, 2012 and ending June 30, 2013. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
A second. Commissioner Turner. Any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
19 yes, motion passes.
Item J2I, a resolution authorizing a TV grant application for the Sheriff's Department. Whereas the Rutherford County Sheriff's Department, with the assistance of the County Technical Assistance Service, desires to submit a grant application for a TVA energy grant for approximately $500,000, which will require local matching funds of 10% to replace 2 chillers. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and all other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are hereby authorized to submit a TVA energy grant application for the Sheriff's Department in the amount of $500,000 and requiring local matching funds of 10% to provide funding to replace 2 chillers. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Commissioner Farley. Ms. Cook. All in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Item J2J, a resolution authorizing a SAFER grant application for the Fire and Rescue Department and execution of the same if awarded. Whereas Rutherford County has learned of available grant funds through the Staffing of Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Program, and whereas Rutherford County's fire chief desires to submit a grant application for a 100% federally funded 2-year staffing grant for the purpose of hiring 4 full-time firefighters, 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, at a pay grade 6 with an annual salary between $37,450 and $38,130, with Rutherford County not being required to commit beyond the 2-year contract. And whereas Rutherford County's fire chief also desires to submit a grant application for a 100% federally funded 4-year recruitment and retention grant for the purpose of hiring a recruitment and retention coordinator to help recruit and retrain Rutherford County's volunteer force, with the pay grade and annual salary to be the same as the firefighter positions listed above. Additionally, if awarded, the grant proceeds would also be used to provide 4-year long-term disability and life insurance policies for all volunteer firefighters. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and any other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are hereby authorized to submit a grant application for a 2-year staffing grant for the purpose of hiring 4 full-time firefighters, and to submit a grant application for a 4-year recruitment and retention grant for the purpose of hiring a recruitment and retention coordinator, and to provide 4-year long-term disability and life insurance policies for all volunteer firefighters through the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grant Program, with no local matching funds being required for either grant. Additionally, that the county mayor be authorized to execute the appropriate documentation to accept the grants if awarded. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
You have a second? Commissioner Farley. Commissioner Young?
I'm all for this. See, I'm not against fire. Contrary to believe, I'm a fireman. I think it's great. We need paid firefighters. I'm an advocate for that. But with paid firefighters comes responsibility. When this grant's over with, we're going to have employees that we're going to have to pick up the bill for. State law dictates where we get money for our fire department funding for. If y'all aren't aware of this, it's the situs tax that comes from unincorporated sales tax within the community. Development tax from the unincorporated community can be used. Remember, I said unincorporated area development tax. And hall income tax. If there's any others, am I correct by that, Ms. Nolan? Thank you. The 1 cent it goes over that amount, the city can sue this government. Shelbyville sued Bedford County over this and created a fire tax. It's coming. That cost of Chief Farley's budget is going to exceed that amount of revenue coming in at one point. Might be this year. Might be without paid employees. When that happens, we have due diligence to implement a fire tax. It's going to be unpopular. I've talked with my constituents since we've redistricted. I've got an unincorporated area of the county now. And I've talked with several of my constituents, and they said that's the only tax they wouldn't mind paying because they knew where the money was going. Because that money cannot be used for anything else. Am I correct, Ms. Nolan? It's allotted, just like some of our other special funds. We can't touch it. If we get this grant, we get those firefighters, we're either going to lay them off or we're going to retain them. We're going to have a fire tax. It might happen before then. You need to be aware of that. If we had a fire tax now, we'd go buy new tankers instead of sit up here for an hour and argue about retrofitting 1993 models, because there'd be plenty of money in the bank. So the other counties around us are more progressive than we are. And they're more fiscally responsible because they're not trying to hinder one department and hold constraints on them without having funding mechanism for the funding. But I encourage you to vote for this. But remember I said that. Remember what I say here tonight about the fire tax. I know Commissioner Farley, he's not mad at me for this one. We might debate the tankers later, but he agrees with me wholeheartedly on this. If this county is going to move forward, we can have all the tankers if we want, but if nobody drives them to the fire, what happens to the fire? The house burns down. So, food for thought. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
16 yes, 2 no. Motion passes.
Item J2K, a resolution authorizing a federal Title I grant application for juvenile detention and execution of the same if awarded. Whereas the Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center Director desires to submit a grant application for a federal Title I neglected and delinquent program grant through the Tennessee Alliance for Children and Families for approximately $100,000, which requires no local matching funds. And whereas, if awarded, it is being proposed to use the grant funds for educational programming, drug and alcohol counseling, career counseling, specialized curriculum, assessments, and supplies and materials. The grant funds can also be used for additional educational personnel. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and all other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are hereby authorized to submit a federal Title I neglected and delinquent program grant application through the Tennessee Alliance for Children and Families for the Juvenile Detention Center in the amount of $100,000, and additionally to authorize the county mayor to execute the appropriate documentation if awarded. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Commissioner Schaefer, all in favor of this, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Item J2L, a resolution authorizing PetSmart Charities grant application for PAWS. Whereas the Rutherford County Pet Adoption and Welfare Services Director desires to submit a grant for a PetSmart Charities grant for approximately $70,260, which requires no local matching funds. And whereas, if awarded, it is being proposed to use the grant funds to implement PAWS initiative to spay and neuter intact pets and will cover the cost of surgeries, additional packs of surgical instruments, a temporary part-time assistant, microchips, and marketing, and will be open to any Rutherford County residents regardless of income. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and all other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are hereby authorized to submit a PetSmart Charities grant application in the amount of $70,260, and additionally to authorize the county mayor to execute the appropriate documentation if awarded. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Ms. Cook. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, and I think this is the last time. Item J2M, a resolution authorizing facsimile signature for Rutherford County payroll account at SunTrust Bank. Whereas SunTrust Bank, Nashville, Tennessee, is the depository bank for the Rutherford County payroll account, and whereas the undersigned is the county mayor for Rutherford County, Tennessee, whereas SunTrust Bank, Nashville, is authorized and directed to honor checks, drafts, or other orders for the payment of money drawn on the Rutherford County payroll account, bearing or purporting to bear the facsimile signature as follows. General Fund, Ernest G. Burgess, County Mayor, Lisa A. Nolan, Finance Director. Road and Bridge Fund, Gregory A. Brooks, Road Superintendent, Ernest G. Burgess, County Mayor, Lisa A. Nolan, Finance Director. General Purpose School Fund, Terry L. Hodge, Chairman of the Board, Marvin D. Odom, Director of Schools, Lisa A. Nolan, Finance Director. Whereas SunTrust Bank, Nashville, shall be entitled to honor and to charge the account of such checks, drafts, or other orders, regardless of by whom or by what means the actual or purported facsimile signature thereon may have been affixed thereto, if such signature resembles the facsimile specimen duly certified to or filed with SunTrust Bank, Nashville. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners of Rutherford County, Tennessee, that the county mayor and other appropriate officials of Rutherford County be and are hereby authorized to execute the corporate resolution and certificate of incumbency deposit accounts, a copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim, authorizing the facsimile signatures for the Rutherford County payroll account as listed in the foregoing resolution, effective upon adoption. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Mrs. Cook. Any discussion? Shouldn't be. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Item J2N, a resolution authorizing a facsimile signature for the Rutherford County trustee account at First Tennessee Bank. Whereas First Tennessee Bank National Association is the depository bank for the Rutherford County trustee account, and whereas the undersigned is the county mayor for Rutherford County, Tennessee, and whereas First Tennessee Bank is authorized and directed to honor checks, drafts, or other orders for the payment of money drawn on the Rutherford County trustee account, bearing or purporting to bear the facsimile signature as follows. General Fund, Ernest G. Burgess, County Mayor. Lisa A. Nolan, Finance Director. Road and Bridge Fund, Gregory A. Brooks, Road Superintendent. Ernest G. Burgess, County Mayor. Lisa A. Nolan, Finance Director. General Purpose School Fund, Terry L. Hodge, Chairman of the Board. Marvin D. Odom, Director of Schools. Lisa A. Nolan, Finance Director. Whereas First Tennessee Bank National Association shall be entitled to honor and to charge the account for such checks, drafts, or other orders, regardless of by whom or by what means the actual or purported facsimile signature thereon may have been affixed thereto, if such signature resembles the facsimile specimen duly certified to or filed with First Tennessee Bank National Association. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners of Rutherford County, Tennessee, that the county mayor and other appropriate officials of Rutherford County be and are hereby authorized to execute the certified resolutions of lodge, association, or similar unincorporated organization deposit accounts and loans with First Tennessee Bank National Association, a copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim, authorizing the facsimile signatures for the Rutherford County trustee account as listed in the foregoing resolution to be effective upon adoption. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Jernigan. All in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Item J2O, a resolution amending Rutherford County debt management policy. Ladies and gentlemen of the Commission, we need to make this amendment tonight, and this amendment change, because we are financing an energy project through a capital lease, and our current debt management policy does not address capital leases. So therefore, this amendment to our debt policy. Whereas at the regular meeting of the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners on November 17, 2011, a resolution was adopted approving a debt management policy for Rutherford County. And whereas it is being proposed to amend the debt management policy by adding Item D, contracts, leases, and lease purchase agreements under the section entitled Types of Debt as follows. Types of debt, Item D, contracts, leases, and lease purchase agreements. Pursuant to Section 7-51-901 et sec, the county may enter into, with any contracting party or parties, contracts, leases, or lease purchase agreements with respect to capital improvement property for terms not to exceed 30 years or the useful life of the subject capital improvement property, whichever is less. Payments made under such contracts, leases, or lease purchase agreements shall be subject to annual appropriation by the county. Therefore, be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Rutherford County, Tennessee, that the debt management policy, a copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1, and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim, be amended to include item D, contracts, leases, and lease purchase agreements as stated in the foregoing resolution, and shall take effect immediately from and after the adoption of this resolution, the welfare of Rutherford County, Tennessee, requiring it. Resolved this 13th day of September, 2012. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second from Commissioner P. Any questions? All in favor, then please say aye. That was unanimous. Thank you.
Item J2P, a resolution amending a lease purchase agreement with Cruz and Associates, Inc., relative to the Excel Energy project on behalf of the Board of Education. Whereas at the regular meeting of the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners on May 17, 2012, a resolution was adopted authorizing the Rutherford County Board of Education to enter into a contract with Excel Energy Group for a district-wide energy-efficient water project at a cost of $1,461,013. And additionally, to enter into a lease purchase agreement with Cruz and Associates, Inc. for financing the project at an interest rate of 3 7/10% over 7 years. And whereas the State of Tennessee Comptroller of the Treasury has advised that the County Commission does not have the authority to delegate debt issuance to the Rutherford County Board of Education, therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the lease purchase agreement with Cruz and Associates, a copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim, be amended, authorizing the county mayor on behalf of Rutherford County to execute the lease purchase agreement for the energy efficient water project for the Rutherford County Board of Education in the amount of $1,461,013 at an interest rate of 3 7/10% over 7 years. Resolved this 13th day of September, 2012. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Commissioner Serino. Any discussion or question? Commissioner Coggin.
I just have one question of clarification. Is there, as this project started, I'm just curious why we would accrue the interest beginning in June. I know we approved it back in May, but in the contract, the lease agreement, it just says the interest would begin accruing in June.
95% complete. The project is 95% complete. According
Other
to Mr.
questions?
Sandy.
Okay, then. Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
19 yes, motion passes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In July, after the selection of Mr. Odom as our new school director, I asked him to, would he be willing to come down sometime and fairly soon and address us. He may be rethinking that at this point. He did say yes and was eager to do so, and he's been here since about 10 minutes to 6. I did tell him, though, he didn't have to come until about 6:30 or maybe 6:45. I was optimistic. But at any rate, he would like to share with us. I think it's appropriate his vision and school plans and what he is looking at as far as our present school situation. We're, of course, about a few weeks into the new school year, and I would, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we suspend the rules, welcome our new director of schools, and allow him to address us. And I assume there'll be no opposition to that, but we got to follow the rules. So I'd like to do that. He's on the agenda. We don't have to do that. I've just been told by our parliamentarian.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan. He's on the agenda.
Jordan,
that is correct.
Mr. Odom, if you're ready to go, come forward. And thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Burgess and
ladies and gentlemen of the Commission, and guests this evening. I want to begin by thanking you on behalf of the employees of Rutherford County School System, the boys and girls of Rutherford County Schools. Your support of our schools over the past several years has been phenomenal. We're one of the fastest growing, sometimes the fastest growing county in the state, and that brings children with it. I did hear a quote today, we may be the 26th fastest in the nation. I'm not sure about that one. I can't verify that, but we're up there somewhere. One of the things that I want to say in thanking this, though, is I hope that you have noticed some of the performance of our school system. We are now one of the 21 exemplary school systems in the state of Tennessee. That was recently awarded to us. We are the largest school system to receive this award. We have almost 40,000 students. The next closest school system to us to receive this award is Sevier County with 14,000 students. To be exemplary, you must make a majority of, under the new waiver, under No Child Left Behind, for achievement. You have to meet, we have goals to meet at least half or more of those goals, and also in gap closures between your economically disadvantaged and non-economically disadvantaged and several other areas. You must meet over half of those, so we did that. When the Commissioner of Education announced this and placed it in the Tennessean, he made this statement. The list of 21 districts included large and perennial high-performing districts like Rutherford County Schools, which exceeded the state average on every single tested subject. That's quite a compliment. We are, as I said, the 6th largest school district in Tennessee. Actually, if you want some current statistics, we have 39,941 students in grades K through 12. That is an increase of 1,333 over the last day of last year. We had 519 growth last year. The growth this year jumped back again to 1,333. Back in 2006 and 7, I can recall Mr. Gill coming to you and talking about an 1,800 student growth. But we haven't had anything up to the 1,300 in several years since that 2006-7 area. We are a very culturally diverse school system. We are the 3rd largest English language learner population in the state, behind Metro Nashville, Memphis City, and then comes Rutherford County. We have over 2,300 English language learners in Rutherford County schools, and we speak 65 languages approximately in Rutherford County. That's how diverse we are. When you look at those gap closure and achievement, we actually made all of our goals last year with the ELL population. So the teachers and the people that are working with us and those students are phenomenal. I guess in some challenges that we might have and some goals to look at, we still have 149 portables in Rutherford County schools being used. I have asked Gary Clardy, our engineer and assistant superintendent for construction and management, to look at our buildings and see if we can find ways to do additions that are lower cost. We've done some work over the last several months of dividing some areas in some of our middle schools. That was an area that was kind of where the wings went off to the side, where we were able to create a classroom there. We were doing that within maintenance funds. So we're looking at options that we can do as much as we can to accommodate the students internally in every way that we possibly can. Our goals for us, of course, again, are driven a lot by the state, what they tell us to do. My contract with the Rutherford County Board of Education is based upon student performance, and that's principals, teachers, everybody's now tied around this, which you've heard a lot about it with teacher evaluations. But I wanted to say those things about awards to let you know how your people are performing and how they are handling the growth and what they're doing for the boys and girls of Rutherford County. I'm going to go back to one of your commissioners from a few years ago, and I'll end with this. Dr. Bullen made a statement up here, I believe, one evening, and he made the statement is, you can tell a whole lot about a county or a city by how they treat their older people and their children. Some of you may remember him making that statement. And Rutherford County is doing very well by both. One of the things is with your community development center, what we do with them with the older population is just wonderful. What we do with our health department, the things that you're doing there, and certainly with our students is what I told you before. One of the things that we have to bear in mind, and I said this to the Chamber of Commerce group I was able to speak to the other day when we're dealing with recruitment and business in Rutherford County and what's our future and that sort of thing. There's about 3 areas that businesses, when they look at a county or a city or something that they're considering coming into, one of them is, what is the workforce? You know, are there people there that can work and fill my business? The second thing is, what is the business climate? How are you acceptable to a business, and what kind of incentives or other things might be available? Number 3 is they ask the question, what about my employees? And at the top of that list, in most one of those, what about the schools? What about the schools in the area that I want to go? You can proudly say tonight, if you're recruiting, you're looking at other businesses, that Rutherford County ranks up there with the very best in Tennessee and even in the nation. Thank you very much this evening.
Commissioner Farley, you'd like to ask him a question?
No, sir. I'd like to make a comment.
Okay.
First of all, I want to publicly tell you and congratulate you. I know Health and Ed and Budget may have already told you this, but I have privately told you this, but I want to publicly do it. Congratulate you for being put in the position of Director of Schools. I want to commend the Rutherford County Board of Education for selecting you, because you're one of the most highly respected people that I know, and I know you're going to take this school system to the next level, along with the teachers and the employees of the Board of Education. Thank you.
Very much. Let's see, then next we're ready for Commissioner McAdoo to tell us about the Property Management Committee resolutions.
Well, I just got this one statement to make. I got 4 resolutions to read tonight, and based on this, we may need to start to have more meetings so I can cut down on these resolutions. But another statement I got to make, a question was asked on the first order of business on the property management is resolution to approve the relocation of the restored courthouse clockworks to the Chamber of Commerce Visitors Center and execution of the agreement. Now, I was asked the question, was that the courthouse clock that is presently on our courthouse? No, it's the original clock that was moved to the Discovery Center. And they had a clock committee, and they refurbished that clock, and it's workable. Now they want to move the clock from the Discovery Center to the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce building. So we have a resolution to that effect so they can move it. Yes, only 2 of that original type clock in the state. So, whereas the attached agreement by and between Rutherford County, Tennessee and Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce for display of the original restored clockworks of the Rutherford County Courthouse clock, a copy of said agreement being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein at length verbatim as if set forth herein has been approved by the Property Management Committee, and whereas it is in the best interest of the citizens of Rutherford County for the county to enter into said agreement with the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce for display of said clock works. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that it approves the agreement with the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce for display of the original restored clockworks of the Rutherford County Courthouse clock according to the terms and provisions contained in said agreement. The county mayor and any other required county officials are hereby authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to enter into said agreement. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012, and I so move.
Second, Commissioner Cook. Any discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay. Next resolution to approve lease agreement with the Midland Fosterville Volunteer Fire Department. Whereas the attached lease agreement by and between Rutherford County, Tennessee and the Fosterville Midland Volunteer Fire Department, Incorporated, for leasing of premises at 2675 Midland Fosterville Road, Christiana, Tennessee, for a volunteer fire station. A copy of said lease agreement being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein at length verbatim as if set forth herein has been approved by the Property Management Committee. And whereas it is in the best interest of the citizens of Rutherford County for the county to enter into said lease agreement with the Fosterville Midland Volunteer Fire Department Incorporation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the lease agreement with the Fosterville Midland Volunteer Fire Department Incorporation for leasing of the said property according to the terms and provision contained in said lease agreement. Be it further resolved that the appropriate officials for and on behalf of Rutherford County be and hereby are authorized to execute for and on behalf of Rutherford County the lease agreement with the Fosterville Midland Volunteer Fire Department Incorporation. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012, and I so move.
Second, Commissioner Jernigan. Commissioner Young.
How long is this lease agreement for with the Midland Fosterville Volunteer Fire Department?
10-year lease.
10-year lease? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Other questions? All in favor of that, then please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
A resolution to approve execution of agreement with Kind Sweeney Associates for design services to renovate the newly acquired sheriff office space. Whereas attached is an AIA standard form of agreement between owner and architect between Rutherford County, Tennessee and Klein Sweeney Associates providing for design services to renovate the newly acquired sheriff office space. A copy of the said being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 incorporated herein by references as if set forth herein at length verbatim, and whereas it is in the best interest of the citizens of Rutherford County for the county to enter into said AIA standard form of agreement between owner and Klein Sweeney Associates. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and other appropriate officials be and they hereby are authorized to enter into and execute for and on behalf of Rutherford County, Tennessee, the attached AIA standard form of agreement between owner and architect with Klein Sweeney Associates. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012, and I so move.
Second from Commissioner Cook, and now Commissioner Jordan.
I've just got a question. It says contracts attached. It's not actually attached to what we've got out here. I mean, how much is the contract for?
$27,000, but it will be billed on an hourly basis, but that's the maximum.
What do we expect to spend ballpark-wise on renovations? Are we going to use inmate labor to do this? I mean, I thought the money we bought the building with was, and I forget exactly what we gave it for, but we had $1 million price tag, and are we going to be within our $1 million after we buy the property and everything, or are we going to go over that?
Don't know that for sure, but we're optimistic we are going to use as much inmate labor as we can for demolition, et cetera, and cleanup. We have $250,000 left out of the $1 million. We paid $750,000, so we have $250,000 less $27,000 for this, up to that much.
So we're still looking to stay under that $1 million.
Hoping to stay under that, and
hopefully.
The sheriff indicated there may be some other funds if they were to collect some drug funds that we could use. So we'll have to have that discussion as we get better information. Other discussion? All right, staying according to rules here. Please cast your votes on this since it's appropriating money.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
19 yes, motion passes.
Okay, the next one, it really didn't come through our committee, but it was added on, and there's no money's involved, and it's something that need to be done. And so we went ahead and put it on the agenda. And if there's any question of committee members, I apologize for it, but we didn't get this information until after the committee meeting. And it's a resolution to approve execution of licensing agreement for housing a Department of Safety and Homeland Security self-service kiosk at the Smyrna County Clerk's Office. And resolution, whereas the attached license agreement by and between Rutherford County, Tennessee and the state of Tennessee for hosting a self-service kiosk at the Smyrna County Clerk's Office, a copy of said license agreement being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein at length verbatim as if set herein, and whereas it is in the best interest of the citizens of Rutherford County for the county to enter into said license agreement with the state of Tennessee. Now therefore be resolved that the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the licensing agreement with the state of Tennessee for hosting a self-service kiosk at the Smyrna County Court Clerk's Office according to the terms and provisions contained in said license agreement. Be it further resolved that the appropriate officials for and on behalf of Rutherford County be and hereby are authorized to execute for and on behalf of Rutherford County the licensing agreement with the state of Tennessee. Resolved this 13th day of September 2012. Now so moved.
Second from Commissioner Allen, who has a question, and then Commissioner P. Excuse me.
I second it so I could ask my question. Again, I don't have an agreement attached. I don't know how much it is, and I don't know what the kiosk does.
Well, this basically is a state project, and there's no monies involved per se that the county have to pay out. There's no money, as I gather, involved at all on our end. It's the state that want to.
And it might be permissible here, if it's okay, if we let Madam Clerk sort of tell you what this is all about.
I'd be glad to.
You want me to suspend the rules?
Oh, I don't know. Well, okay, let's do it right. Do we need to ask? Excuse me, just a moment. Do we need to address your question first, Mr. P, before we do this?
The other commissioner said the exact words I was fixing to say, so thank you.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. McAdoo, you were requesting a suspension of the rules.
I so move that we suspend the rules and let our clerk speak on this resolution.
All right. Second by Commissioner Phillips. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. I thought that would be the case. Madam Clerk.
The kiosks that we're discussing, they have them at our local Murfreesboro driver's license office. So if any of you've seen those, you'll have an idea of what I'm talking about. This kiosk will take absolutely no employees to run it. It's not going to cost the county any money. The state of Tennessee and Homeland Security will be providing the machine, the maintenance, the paper that goes in it, the installation of it. It's nothing for us. Well, it also provides a service for the north side of this county that was currently taken away. The kiosk has a camera on it. It does not take cash. It only takes credit or debit. It's totally self-sufficient. If it's out of order, it'll come up out of order. Our county employees will not have to take care of that. The only two things you can do on this kiosk machine is either apply for a replacement driver's license or renew your driver's license. And how that will be done is you fill out the information. It'll take your new picture right there. It'll print you out a paper receipt, and within 2 weeks you'll receive your driver's license in the mail.
Thank you. That's a very good explanation. Commissioner Turner?
Just a real simple follow-up because it's coming up for me. Does it also recognize renewal of handgun carry permits as well, or is it just for driver's license? Do we know?
Only driver's license.
Driver's licenses. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, then. If there's no other questions, I think you're ready to vote. This is involving no appropriation from the county. All of you in favor of this, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner McAdoo. Good job. All right, Commissioner Farley, Public Safety has one resolution.
Resolution is to approve the First Amendment to the lease agreement for the Tiger Hill Tower and lease agreement for the Lynch Hill Tower, and authorize execution contingent upon review by the County Attorney's Office. Whereas the attached First Amendment to the lease agreement for the Tiger Hill Tower and lease agreement for the Lynch Hill Tower between Rutherford County, Tennessee and the state of Tennessee, copies of said documents being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and 2 and incorporated herein at length, verbatim, as is set forth herein, have been approved by it's got on the Property Management Committee. I'm going to change that to the Public Safety Committee. And whereas it is in the best interest of the citizens of Rutherford County for the county to execute said documents with the state of Tennessee. Now therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and others appropriate officials being hereby are authorized to enter into and execute for and on behalf of Rutherford County, Tennessee, the First Amendment to the lease agreement for the Tiger Hill Tower and lease agreement for the Lynch Hill Tower with the state of Tennessee, contingent upon review of the same by the county attorney, resolved this 13th day of September 2012, and I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Commissioner Gooch and others. Any other discussion on that? All in favor of that, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. The Public Works and Planning Committee has no report, and we're ready for the Steering and Legislative and Governmental Committee. Commissioner Coggin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one item on the agenda for tonight, a resolution to approve position of Deputy to the Mayor. Whereas the position of Deputy to the Mayor is established, is appointed by and serves at the pleasure of the County Mayor, and whereas the position of Deputy to the Mayor is approved and is in the best interest of the citizens of Rutherford County, and whereas the job description of the Deputy to the Mayor is attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein at length as if set forth verbatim. And whereas the salary of the Deputy to the Mayor position will be determined through the normal budgeting process each year, and the appointed designee will be an exempt employee with the same benefits provided to all exempt county employees. And whereas the appointed designee cannot hold the position of Deputy to the Mayor and that of another elected county position at the same time. And whereas the appointed designee cannot be a person with immediate family members, as defined in the Rutherford County Employee Handbook, that serve as elected county officials, directors, or department heads supervised by the mayor. And whereas the appointed designee must be placed on personal leave without pay if he or she decides to run for any elected county position. And the leave shall begin once they file their qualifying paperwork with the elections administrator with approval to use accrued annual leave until the election cycle is complete. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that this resolution be adopted, resolved this 13th day of September 2012. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Farley. Any discussion or questions? Commissioner Schaefer.
Yep, just a quick one. The job description that's at the end of this, is it changed at all from the one that we received to review?
It was presented at the last steering committee meeting and has not changed since that time. No, sir. And anyone that really would like to see that, we'd be happy to get you an actual copy of it. Commissioner P.
Just a quick question on how this person will be chosen. Could you give me a quick rundown on how that'll happen?
So there's a specific, we're going to post that in a public way for 2 weeks on Channel 19, the county website, Tennessee Career Center, MTSU Career Center, the Daily News Journal. We will advertise that in the Murfreesboro Post. So we're going to have it publicly announced that we're seeking applications, and the interview committee will consist of the county mayor, our finance director, our human resources director, and the chairperson of the steering committee.
Will it then be confirmed, whoever you choose, would that be confirmed by the county commission? Well, I'd make an amendment that whoever is chosen by this committee be confirmed by the full commission. I'll make an amendment to the motion.
Second by Commissioner Young. Discussion? Commissioner Jordan.
Well, I hate to not agree with the commissioners to my right here, as we usually do, but I don't think it needs to get political. Other department heads are not, that are, number two at different departments are not approved by the county commission and all, and I don't want to get up here with who's got the best, who's the best good old boy in the group that knows the most of us and things like that. I mean, it's a professional position. The mayor ought to be the one leading this charge and this committee, and I don't want somebody's next door neighbor who everybody likes getting a job because he's got political connections. So I'm against the amendment.
Commissioner Farley, do you wish to speak?
Commissioner P., this actually was brought up in the steering committee, and we debated it in steering. I won't go into saying something, but I agree with everything that Commissioner Jordan just got through saying. This is the mayor's deputy, basically. The sheriff gets to pick his. Our clerk gets to pick hers. Laura Bowling gets to pick hers. And, I could go on and on and on. And, I think it's his pick. And the only thing I think that we actually have to confirm is the CUD board and things like that. But this person here will be working for the mayor at the mayor's pleasure. So that's.
Commissioner Young would like to speak. Commissioner P.
The reason why I seconded this is I agree it shouldn't be political. The mayor should choose his choice. But we confirmed the fire chief. We did. According to state law, you have to confirm the fire chief, and we confirmed Chief Farley in this very commission to be the fire chief. We really did. You can go back and look at the minutes. There's state law. Now, this is our choice. I don't see anything different wrong with that. We're not telling him who to pick or what to do. We're confirming his appointment. The president does it with his cabinet. Am I right or wrong? We're not here to roadblock it. It's just an affirmation that we support the mayor, and it shows that the commission is behind the mayor. That's the way I look at it. So thank you. Again, it's not to roadblock anything.
Commissioner Cook.
Thought I'd be quiet. Lisa, I don't want to put you on the spot. Did we confirm you when? I think we did.
I'm a little different in that I'm your employee.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
I just wanted to say I agree with everything Will said too. This doesn't need to be political. When you appoint planning commission, those are approved by us. I think this is a very important position, and I don't think I trust you implicitly, and whoever you bring forward, I feel sure that I would probably agree with. But that doesn't mean that a future mayor or someone else might bring someone here, and I'm thinking, this is the good old boy system, and we don't really need this. That's why I suggested we do this. Thank you.
Commissioner Allen.
When we had the discussion about bringing in-house legal counsel, I initially introduced the idea that maybe we needed to go in a different direction, and I'm happy to see that we've progressed to this point, because I think the county would be much better served with this position than we would having gone in the other direction. My thinking on this is the mayor needs to be able to build his team. He needs to be able to choose the people around him that he wants to serve to lead this county. He was elected by the people, and so it's his decision who serves. What I think we gain out of this even more is the fact that we're going to have someone who will be the transition team for whenever elections change. The problem is every time a new county mayor is elected, there's nobody here that offers, besides the secretaries in the offices downstairs who are amazing, and we're very fortunate to have them, there's nobody else who offers that sort of continuity. But when that new county mayor is elected, if he chooses to retain this person, then that person will bring, added expertise and, value to the team. But he needs to be able to work with that person and trust him and make sure that that person's going to work in the direction and have, his loyalty and his back, because this is such a close working relationship. So I think absolutely it needs to be the mayor's choice. This person serves at the pleasure of the mayor.
Commissioner Farley, and back to Commissioner P.
We've got the final say so, really and truly. 11 votes up here could take it out of the budget. If it's someone that is done that way, if it's political, gets done political, I don't think the Mayor Burgess would do that, and we don't know the future mayors. But if it's something done like that, 11 votes, all we got to do, take it out. It's gone. You know, so we do have the ultimate say-so through the budget process.
P.
Like I said in budget, when this came through, we're not doing this for Ernest Burgess. We're doing this from now on. You know, this is future. We don't know what the future is going to hold. We don't know who's going to be elected next time. And I feel that I would like to maintain that little bit of control or oversight. If something was to come back that I didn't like, then at least I'd have a say on it. That's what I feel about it. And I do have a quick question since you brought this up, and I'm afraid I hadn't ran all the way through the contract. I couldn't get through all the qualifications, you know, just reading those. There's like 3 or 4 pages of them. But when a new mayor is elected, are you saying that this person at that time chooses his own deputy and that person's automatically out, or that person would be renewed automatically? I'd like an answer to that question too.
Leading mayor, it would be their option completely as to whether they keep that person or appoint a new person. The governor of the state of Tennessee has a deputy to the mayor. He has a person in place that he has confidence in, knowledge in, and has the ability to communicate and cast his own vision. I think, personally, that's my preference substantially. And I don't really think that we should, I guess you could say, prevent whoever the mayor is from having that choice and that ability to pick the very, very best person they think that they can accomplish the most with. Anyway, I appreciate and respect your comments and your views. Commissioner Schaefer.
Well, then why don't we do that the first time and let the mayor do it as opposed to having 4 people?
We've been somewhat, I guess you could say, magnanimous and allowed other people to participate in this discovery. I want that. I need other people's view as we go through this process. But at the last stop, it's the mayor's decision to serve at the pleasure of the mayor. Commissioner Young.
Call for the question on the amendment.
We have a call for the question. A second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. All right. We're voting on the amendment, and that would require confirmation by the Board of Commissioners of this position. Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
5 yes, 14 no. Motion fails.
Ready to vote on the motion. We have a motion on the floor submitted by our chairperson, Commissioner Young.
Yes, I'd like to add an amendment to this. I've been over with Ms. Stevenson about this, and this is my opinion. I think we need to advertise this nationally, and by putting it on IMAC, International Association of City Managers, that's ultimately what this is. If we're advertising in the Post for 2 weeks, we can advertise on IMAC. There's no cost to it, I don't believe, and it's just opening up. I mean, we need the cream of the crop in this county. I want the best person to be there for the mayor, and I want him to have the best choices out there. So we're doing our citizens right. By not doing that, we're limiting our pool for him to choose from. I mean, there's really no controversy to this by just advertising on it. What's the downside of it? I'd like to make that motion to advertise that on the International Association of City Managers website for the same time frame with the rest of the advertisement.
We have a second to this amendment. Motion failed for lack of a second. Are we ready to vote on the motion? Call for the question. All in favor of the question, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. All right, we're ready to vote. Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
18 yes, 1 no. Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any other business anyone wishes to bring before the commission? Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes, this is Old Timers Weekend, Old Timers Day weekend. Yeah, I fill the bill right now, I'll tell you. But anyhow, this weekend in Laverne. The big day is Saturday, and it will start with a ham breakfast at 6 o'clock on Gamble Lane at the Laverne Rescue Squad. Parade through the metropolis on Murfreesboro Road beginning at 10 o'clock. And then festivities at Veterans Park for the rest of the day. And also there will be activities tomorrow night.
Commissioner Allen.
September 29th is Depot Days in Smyrna. It begins actually the Friday night before. There's a classic car show. This will all occur in downtown Smyrna. There's a 5K run. You can get information from the Smyrna Parks and Recs Department about that. There are vendors and food and all kinds of just traditional fare that will happen in that downtown venue across from the historic depot, and there'll also be a wine tasting that night. So we would encourage everybody to come.
Anyone else have any business? Commissioner P.
There is also a country ham breakfast at the Kittrell Volunteer Fire Department this Saturday, the 15th, from 6 to 10. I want to invite everybody out. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Phillips, yes, he has a very important announcement. I'm sorry I wasn't remembering that.
Just wanted to remind everyone that there's a joint called meeting between the Rutherford County Planning Commission and the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners this coming Monday night. That's the 17th at 6 p.m. here in this courthouse. And the purpose of this work session is for us to discuss and explain and be a lot more familiar actually with the new comprehensive plan. That's Monday night, special call meeting here at the courthouse at 6 o'clock.
Thank you very much. Very important meeting is certainly correct. Any other discussion or questions for any other business? If not, then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.